Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic, and I want to welcome you to my channel, Opinion Stated, where I give unfiltered, opinionated sports takes. Let's go. Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic. I want to welcome you back to my channel, Opinion Stated. And it's been about 5 days since my last episode. Man, that was right on the brink of the Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals kicking off. So we have enjoyed up to date 3 games in both of the series, both Eastern and Western Conference. I am so far behind because you know what I mean? Like after game 1, game 2 in both series, I kind of felt like, the fuck am I watching here? And unfortunately, let's talk about the Eastern Conference first and foremost, with Indiana and New York, you know what I mean, facing off against each other. It looked like Indiana was going to run away with the series. They took the first 2 games in New York, being the road team, and I was like, man, what's going on here? Maybe this team is better than I had given them credit for, given or just needed to give them credit for being much better than they were, more aptly put. And then on the other end of the spectrum, it's the Western Conference we're speaking of now. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves facing off against the number 1 team in the NBA, hands down the best team in the NBA according to regular season records, or standings, etc. Man, Oklahoma City is just amazing, and they certainly looked so in the first 2 games, just purely dominant in those games, and looked like they were going to run away with the series as well. But the one thing that I do know about the NBA playoffs is you can never get too high or too low on any team or pronounce gloom and doom over them, because that's the reason that they make these games series and not just one and dones. So before we dive into the content any deeper, do me a huge favor, like this video. Liking the video helps us cruise along algorithm avenue, helps us get into the presence of individuals just like yourself who might be looking for this kind of content. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Subscribing and clicking that notification bell helps you to stay in the loop as to when my newest episodes are uploaded. Man, I'm going to dive right into this one. I'm going to entitle today's episode NBA Playoff Conference Finals Game 3s. And so, I want to dive a little bit deeper into, the Game 3s just in conversation. I just kind of want to talk through, what happened in the Game 3s more in depth. But first and foremost, let's kick it off with the Thunder versus the T-Wolves. I guess a bit of a recap. I don't have really game for game recaps. I'm going to dive a little bit into the box scores from Game 3 and just kind of talk about what I see in terms of the numbers. Stats can be misleading, or stats without context can be misleading. But stats can be very telling as long as context is applied. So I'm going to do my best to apply context with the stats that I share. But just kind of in recap or summation of the first 2 games, as I was saying, it just looked like Oklahoma City was outclassing the Minnesota Timberwolves as far as I'm concerned. I did not see a hungry team. I did not see a team that it didn't look like, they were the kind of team that was capable of even being on the court with Oklahoma City. And it was just not because they didn't show up, in the games. I mean, Julius Randle faded to black in, game 2, but game 1, man, had an incredible game. And it just kind of looked like the hungrier team was the Oklahoma City Thunder, I guess I could say. And that was more tenacious on the defensive end, more lively, defensively. Oklahoma City seemed to be the team that adapted to the halftime adjustments better. And like I said, they just seem to be a cut above, like far above Minnesota in games 1 and games 2, which was utterly disappointing for me. Not because I think that Oklahoma City and Minnesota, from a roster standpoint, are even, right? I think that Oklahoma City is the more talented team. They're a younger team, but they have more pieces that they're more apt to use, right? Their bench, they rely on their bench. Chris Finch just doesn't rely on his bench very much. He's got a lot of young players out there too that can go. I like Minot, and I mean, I like a lot of their young players that they just don't use. You know what I mean? Let's just put it like that. And that's in favor of some of the other players that have been there, some of the other players that normally contribute. Whatever it is, whatever his reasoning is as a head coach, I won't pretend to understand it, but he doesn't really use his bench a lot. And so I just felt like Oklahoma City was the better team, and it was showing. It was just like, man, the Thunder might not get a game off these people. And I actually had Oklahoma City winning in 6 anyway. You know what I mean? Like, could Minnesota force a game 7? Sure, it's possible. But I was thinking before the series started, as I detailed, I believe, in the last episode, that my prediction was OKC in 6. Minnesota will fall down 0-2. And I was like, man, I don't think these people, based on what this looks like, I don't even feel confident that they'll get a game. It just didn't seem like it. But again, as I stated in the intro to this episode, the NBA playoffs have shown me, if nothing else, over the years, that you can never get too high, too low. Pronounce the gloom and doom. You know what I mean? Like, start tossing, shoveling dirt on a team and lowering them into the ground too soon. Like, you have to watch the series, man, and kind of watch how things play out. Great adjustments were made, I'll say, in game 3, which brings us up to present content. Man, Oklahoma City would actually defeat the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm sorry, the Minnesota Timberwolves would defeat the Oklahoma City Thunder in game 3, 143 to 101. So, taking a look at the Oklahoma City box score, and maybe before I do that, I'll say Minnesota certainly looked like a different team in game 3. They came out, from the outset, jumped on those boys, have much better energy as a squad. You know what I mean? And the first 2 games were in Oklahoma City, by the way. And so game 3 and 4, game 3, which was on Saturday night, game 4, which is tonight. But game 3, obviously, you know what I mean, in Minnesota. So is at the Target Center. Are they still at the Target Center? I believe it's still the Target Center. At the Target Center, and they were, after getting some home cooked and getting to sleep in their own bed and getting to lick their wounds a little bit and getting to get their mind right, came out and truly, as I said, handled business in that game. And yeah, they look like the team that belongs in the Eastern Conference Finals, vying for a championship. That's exactly what they look like. And so, with that, I without becoming overly exuberant and feeling like, oh yeah, Minnesota could win this series, I was recharged. You know what I mean? With like, okay, this is gonna be maybe a competitive series. You know what I mean? Like, after all, because I was just not excited about a sweep. I remember years back watching Houston. This was in '95, watching Houston and Orlando play in the finals. And after game 2, Nick Anderson and the free throws, I was like, yo, there's no way the NBA is going to allow this to be a sweep. I knew that the confidence of Orlando, that young Orlando team, was just shook. And I was like, there's no way the NBA will allow that finals game to be a sweep. And boy, did they show me. You know what I'm saying? So I said that to say I don't get excited about seeing like that kind of utter down. I don't mind. I mean, I'm a basketball fan, so I like to see, like good basketball being played, but I don't want to see a slaughter. It's like it's weird. You know what I'm saying? I would rather see a good competitive game if I'm going to tune in and watch it. I don't want to just tune in and watch somebody get the shit beat out of them. That's not fun. So anyway, it was really good to see Minnesota get back on track. What they did in that game, from a defensive standpoint, I think definitely needs, the kudos, being given to them, well deserved. They, in being tenacious on D, they disrupted, what Oklahoma City is used to doing, which is just kind of having Shea operate, a lot of ISO, but in the one on, or pick and roll out top, but they were they're almost running like what looked like a 1-3-1 that kind of morphed into a 2-1-2 zone defense. You know what I mean? So they were just jumping Shea like fairly early to get the ball out of his hands. And once you cross half court, and it made all the difference. It rattled Shea enough to knock Shea off balance. But speaking of Shea in this game, 14 points, just 14 points on 4 of 13 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3. So I'm telling you, he was not himself in this game. And because it's a series, what happens is, coaches get a chance to look at some tape and then make some adjustments and, put in defensive schemes that can actually stop some of those or disrupt some of those offensive actions that the other team is running. And it certainly seemed to be the case in this game. Shea had a very pedestrian 14 points. This one game after being, awarded the Michael Jordan MVP for the regular season, league MVP for the regular season. So, yeah, that game was not an MVP game by any stretch of the imagination, but I imagine that tonight's game will be a lot different. We'll talk about that in just a second. 6 points in the game for Lou Dort on 2 of 4 shooting, 2 of 4 from 3. Lou Dort looked like absolute ass out there. And I know he's like typically just a guy that'll like, just catch and shoot threes. But I mean, like, I didn't see a lot of activity in game 3 from him. Lou Dort's normally like a really, really good energy guy. He and Ant got into a bit of a pushing match. I just think that, he was in his head, which is indicative of like kind of how the entire team was knocked off kilter. And so they were just all in their head and just emotional and all over the place. Hartenstein contributed 6 points in the game, 6 rebounds. Jalen Williams, 13 points on 3 of 9 shooting from the field, 2 of 5 from 3, 4 boards, 2 assists. He dished out Chet Holmgren, 10 points in game 3 on 3 of 7 shooting from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, 5 boards, 2 assists for Chet. 101 points scored in the game. Let me back up for a second. 31 total rebounds grabbed, 19 assists dished out, 40.7% shooting from the field. So they shot 35 of 86. A deplorable 31.8% from 3 for this team. They knocked down 14 of 44 threes. And so I think that one of the psychological things for certain that happens, I won't even say I think, I know this as a Hoover, that when you fall in love with this idea of knocking down threes, and then when you can hit them, you have a track record that proves that you can hit them in volume, it tricks you into just trying to shoot yourself back into games sometimes. And when you're off, man, you're just off. So if it's not the 3-pointer as a tool being used properly, then what happens is you begin to just lean on it and rely on it heavily, which most of the NBA is doing. Boston certainly did it. We saw Minnesota do the same thing in game 1 or game 2. They shot like 50 some odd threes, 51 threes, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of the game. So they became like the Boston of the West. And so this heavy reliance on shooting threes, because you think that like, yo, we're just going to shoot and they're going to start falling at some point, is fool's gold. And so that was certainly the case for Oklahoma City, Oklahoma City in this game. They got the shit beat out of them by 42 points. These boys jumped on them early and they wouldn't relent. They didn't let up. They gave them back some of that medicine, that a taste of their own medicine. As the saying goes. Next up, the Minnesota, stat lines or stats for the game. 143 points in game 3 for them. They snagged 50 rebounds, dished out 30 assists. They shot 55 of 96 from the field. That's good enough for 57.3%. And also a clean 50% from 3. So they knock in 20 of 40 threes in this game. The 3-point shot as a tool, like I said, man, when used effectively, can benefit you. You know what I mean? When you just fall in love with this idea of continuing to shoot a high volume, a shot that's not falling, instead of incorporating the shot as a tool into your entire offensive sets, it becomes a problem. It becomes problematic. It becomes anti-help. So it's hurting you. It's not helping you. But in this game, I'm kind of, or with these stats on screen, I'm kind of just harping on the 3 to say, the Timberwolves as a team just spread the ball around. So they spread even the 3-point shots around. and Edwards shot 5 of 8 from three. You know, Mike Conley shot 2 of 6 from three. He had a lot more open looks that some rattled in, rattled out. I would have liked to see Mike take a little less than 6 threes, but you know what I mean? It is what it is. Throughout his career, he's knocked them down 2 of 4 for Jaden McDaniels from three, 2 of 5 for Julius Randle, who was just lights out the last game from three, game two, game one in this series. Um, and so, yeah, just really good shooting. Two or three for Naz Reid, 2 of 2 for DiVincenzo. Nickeil Alexander-Walker shot 2 of 4. So, yeah, they just got a really good contribution and spread of threes to be incorporated into the offense as a tool. And so, I said that to say, man, a remarkable game for this young Minnesota team led by Anthony Edwards, who dropped 30 in this one on 12 of 17 shooting, 9 boards, 6 assists in the game for just an utter complete game top to bottom. 24 points in the game for Julius Randle, just 4 rebounds, fucking ass, 3 assists, 10 points in the game for Jaden McDaniels, 6 rebounds, 4 assists for him, 7 points for Rudy Gobert, 7 and 7 in the game, actually, 7.7 rebounds, 2 assists. Mike Conley just 6 points in the game, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Even though he dished out 30 assists in the game, from their starters, that looks like to me that's 10. That is 17 3. 17 of the 30 obviously dished by the starters who were in the game playing the majority of the minutes. I would still like to see Minnesota share the ball. It might sound crazy, but I would like to see Minnesota share the ball a little bit more. Anthony Edwards has proven that he can get his points however he wants and whenever he wants. And I like how through the other series in the playoffs, he kind of picked his spots and allowed his teammates to get their thing off because he understood the importance of having his teammates involved. That's similar to what happened in the game three, except, Ant came out the gate blazing too, right? But getting everybody else involved in the action, man, is very important. And hopefully that's a Chris Finch, emphasis moving forward. Terrence Shannon Jr. came in, dropped 15 points. I just wanted to note off the bench. And so it was good to see Finch, kind of lean on his bench as well. Like I was saying, man, they've got some. I mean, I'd like to see Rob Dillingham. I would have liked to see Rob Dillingham get more action as the season came to a close to get him better prepared for like these moments. I think the world of Dillingham. Obviously, still very young, still has a lot to learn about the NBA game, but he could certainly could spell Mike Conley in some of those moments where Conley's either off or limping. Conley's an older player at this point. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that he, being Chris Finch, can do a better job of utilizing his bench. But kudos again to the Minnesota Timberwolves for taking this one, man, in a blowout, utter incomplete blowout. We'll get to game 4 and my projections after we talk about the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers were squaring off in the Eastern Conference Finals matchup. Same thing as I was saying earlier here in this episode. Indiana jumped all over New York at home, took both games 1 and 2 in Madison Square Garden. Utter shockers for the Knicks fans and pundits alike, on the national TV airwaves. Everybody's just like, man, the Knicks wet the bed. You know what I mean? Basically, they jacked, wrecking some of these games, and all the credit I think needs to be given to Indiana and how Indiana was playing. We saw Indiana come back from 12 points down with like 2.5 minutes to go. It was like a crazy sequence or a crazy, I guess, crunch time, that condensed crunch time where Indiana wanted it more. And they got some breaks and they took advantage of them. We saw Tyrese Halliburton basically travel. This dude travels every time he does that little cartoon, like run, step back. It's so crazy. If you slow the tape down and count his steps, man, the dude travels. And if you challenge me to, I'll pull the footage and I'll do it in the next episode and show it to you. Fucking traveling, but it's okay because they're not calling it. And one of those such shots he would sink to send the game into overtime. And that was one of the 2 games that was stolen in Madison Square Garden. You know, the Knicks are not the better team in this series. They're not. And it's solely by virtue of the same things that I was just saying about Chris Finch in Minnesota. Tom Thibodeau does not use his entire team. He's just not even playing the bench. And last night he decided to play like more bench players, and it benefited them. It's like, bro, you do know that you have a team and not just a starting five and a six man. You know what I'm saying? Like, use your team. Use your team. It's important. But Indiana now leads the series 2-1 because the Knicks would take game three. Let's talk about game three. So the Knicks would take this game three, 106 to 100. Let's talk about the Knicks. The Knicks trailed by 20 points in this game in the second quarter, and then they cut a 20-point lead down to 13 at the half. And when the Knicks cut this lead from 20 down to 13, I remarked in the group text with my buddies, and I was saying to them, I said, bro, the Knicks are annoying me because it's like they are playing with this expectation that they can turn it on anytime they want. And I said, but this ain't the Boston series. And lo and behold, they come back in the second half and they erase, the 13-point lead, a 19-point turnaround from the halftime deficit, and actually win the game. And I was shocked. If I would have had an inkling that would have happened, man, I would have logged in a FanDuel and just took New York straight up to win. So the odds are crazy. But yeah, they proved again to be that resilient team on the road, that can come back and handle business. They are 6-1 on the road in the playoffs this season. Both the Knicks and the Pacers have winning records on the road, not so good at home. So it's almost like the two games that they dropped, the Knicks being the Madison Square Garden, were expected. And now, for them to take a game in Indiana, it's like it's the new normal. It's like they play better on the road. It's weird. You know what I mean? But they certainly do in this one. 106, the Knicks were able to put up. They snagged 37 rebounds, dish out 13 assists. Only 13 assists. A paltry fucking 13 assists. 13 assists as an entire team is fucking crazy. 43.6% shooting from the field. They knock in 34 of 78 shots. Only 34.4% from three. They knocked in 11 of 32. 35%, somewhere about the league average, actually. So I say only 34%, but it's the 13 assists that really drive me crazy, about this game. And Jalen Brunson would only have one assist in the entire game. He didn't have a really good shooting night. 6 of 18 shooting from the field. That's 33%. 23 points in the game for him. 2 rebounds and just 1 assist is, I don't know, man. It was a really tough game to watch. I know there were spurts and some times that like foul trouble was the reason that he wasn't on the court in a lot of instances. However, his shot wasn't falling. It was 6 of 18, so a lot of shots he was taking that just didn't fall. And I was kind of expecting him to go into point guard mode, and I totally understand that he's basically like a 2 guard trapped in a point guard's body for the most part. And but I was expecting more from him just as a facilitator, like get your teammates involved, bro. Like it's not your night. And I wish more of these superstars would humble themselves and be like, bro, you know what? It ain't my night to do it this way, to score, to be the scorer. I'm just gonna get everybody else involved, and I'll take my shots as they come. You know what I mean? In a better rhythm, and maybe they'll start falling at that point instead of just kind of forcing the action. Only 6 points in the game. Mitchell Robinson actually started this game. 6.6 rebounds for him. A lot of pivotal offensive rebounds and rim protection for him. So Mitchell Robinson's back being Mitchell Robinson, doing Mitchell Robinson things. 24 points in the game for Cat. Cat only had 4 points. 4 points headed into the second half, and he killed it. You know what I'm saying? Like 20 points in the second half for him, maybe even in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? To be honest, I think at one point I looked up and I was like, Cat needs, Cat only had 4 points headed into the fourth. He didn't score any points in the third quarter. He scored all 20 of his points, or 20 additional points, 20 of his 24 in the fourth quarter. So a great showing from Cat. Stepped up, showed some heart, showed some grit. 8 of 17 from the field for him. 3 of 7 from three. I would like to see him shoot less threes, but that's just Karl-Anthony Towns. He grabbed 15 rebounds as well, and 1 assist he dished out. OG Anunoby stepped up and hit some really, really critical shots for him when they needed him. 16 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Miles Bridges, 15 points in the game on 6 of 18 shooting from the field. So he didn't shoot that well either. Got up 18 shots. It's crazy. 1 of 6 from 3 for Mikal, and 2 rebounds, 1 assist. He dished out. Deuce McBride contributed a really, really good 9 points in a timely fashion, also a timely manner. Josh Hart, who did not start in this game, 8 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. So he came in off the bench, played 34 minutes rather. So he did Josh Hart things off the bench, which was good for the Knicks. Let's talk about Indiana. Indiana's the ones who jacked their rack. I think that what happened when Indiana honestly went up by this 20 points. They and they didn't just start shooting like a plethora of threes to shoot themselves out of the game like most teams do. They just couldn't buy a bucket at all unless it was, TJ McConnell or Miles Turner, who came along late. And Pascal Siakam's points, I feel like, even came in the latter stages of the fourth quarter. So they just had no offensive continuity or cohesion. And that's probably due in part to Aaron Neesmith going down with a I don't know, an ankle. I think he rolled his ankle. Yeah, severely. It looked like rolled his ankle. Literally, his ankle touched the floor. You know what I mean, on that roll. So maybe it was, you know, that was a contributing factor to the Knicks coming back because Aaron's such a good defender on the perimeter that he just makes it difficult, or as difficult as possible when he's guarding the ball, fighting over screens. He was continually praised in yesterday's game for doing that by Reggie and the commentators. And so, Indiana would only put up 100 points in the game, snagged 38 rebounds, dished out 21 assists. They shoot 34 of 77 from the field for 44.2%, and just 20% from three, 5 of 25. And so, while that 5 for 25 is an astronomical amount of threes to get up, I talked about the balanced shooting with Minnesota when we talked about the Western Conference Finals, but for this one in particular, Tyrese Halliburton shot 2 of 8 from 3. I expect Tyrese Halliburton to miss 6 threes. No. Do I expect him to just like keep shooting until he makes them? No, either. Miles Turner shot 1 of 6 from 3. So they took the most threes. Nobody else took more than 3 in the game, right? Aaron Neesmith shot 1 of 3. Andrew Nembhard rather, shot 0 for 3. And so, yeah, when you don't have the threes going, but there are a bunch of 0 for 1s, 1 for 1 for Ben Shepherd off the bench. But when you don't have the threes falling, man, it just fucking sucks. When you have, I guess, 2 folks that you expect to shoot the ball, being Halliburton and Miles Turner, to get some, you know what I mean, like kind of get him how he gets them, and they're shooting now a higher volume, and those aren't falling. That's how you get to those shitty percentages of obviously this is mathematically, but I would have liked to see less 3-point attempts taken and have Halliburton. I feel like Halliburton's another one of those with his unorthodox style. He can technically get to the basket anytime he wants to, which would be better for breaking down the defense and forcing the help, from the middle, which then, maybe there's a lob threat there, or maybe, you know what I mean, like some other dish, not a bounce pass, or, use that to then kick the ball back out for the mid ranges, or, you know what I mean, from the other perimeter players either slide into place or, God forbid, some more of those long threes unnecessarily. But yeah, Indiana, I don't know that I could actually not, because I want to give the Knicks their props for coming back in this game, but I don't think I can not blame this one on Indiana. This was Indiana's gaff here. They blew this game. You know what I mean? So I'll leave that one at that. I don't think it changes the trajectory of the series. And I was actually saying Knicks in 6, initially, but this was one of those games that could go 7. But I expected the Knicks to kind of take it in 6. It'll remain to be seen what the Knicks do coming out in this next game. And that's not I have to be Nostradamus to know that it's going to depend on what the Knicks do coming out in this next game. I don't know that they have found any confidence because of last night's game. I don't think that Indiana has lost any because of last night's game, because they were clearly in control of the game. They just coughed it up. And so I almost expect that Indiana will come out and win the next game. And if, I mean, obviously they don't, then the Knicks are in trouble. Or if the Knicks don't come out and win the next game, rather, then they are in trouble. So I just feel like Indiana is, again, the better team, more well rounded with players that are actually stepping up. The only caveat would be that you don't know because of the rolled ankle if Aaron Nesmith is going to be good to go in the game and is going to be functioning on all cylinders. Indiana actually they need Ben Mathurin to go back to being the Ben Mathurin that played all year long and then started out the playoffs playing very well. I feel like if anybody lost anything in that Cleveland series for Indiana, it was after the confrontation with DeAndre Hunter. Benny hasn't played the same. He hasn't been the same player. It's almost like that sapped his his superpower. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how else to describe it, but yeah, he just became a different player after that. So they need Ben Mathurin to get back to being Ben Mathurin, a good producer off the bench offensively to come in. You know what I mean? Like play very scrappy defense, grab boards where he can, make it difficult. Without Ben Mathurin or with Ben Mathurin, they're definitely a different team. With them playing well, TJ McConnell is just TJ McConnell. You know what I mean? Like I've expressed how much I appreciate and respect TJ McConnell. I'm a huge fan. Man, TJ in that high release is something. 8 points off the bench for Obi Toppin. Yeah, I think that they definitely they definitely need a better contribution from all their players, like all those auxiliary players and role players. And with that, they are a better team than the Knicks. They just are, man. I haven't really given Indiana their props, but they are a very good basketball team, a very good basketball team. There's not a, I mean, Halliburton's a star player. I'll imagine he's not a superstar, but he's like the star player on their team. But yeah, they're just a team. You know what I mean? They're a complete team. So that be that. We'll see what happens in game 4 tomorrow. Let's talk about the game 4 that is going to be televised tonight, and then I'm going to get out of here. The Thunder and the T Wolves take to the court once again in Minnesota tonight. Oklahoma City is actually favored by 3. They're giving 3 points to Minnesota. Go figure. Um, I think the threes fool's gold, but I'll just go through the rest of these stats or the odds rather. Um, and again, these odds are extracted from FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel Sportsbook does not endorse this channel. I would say that again, does not endorse this channel. So this is not gambling advice to you. I'm just sharing the odds. You know what I mean? If you think that Minnesota will win this game tonight, also, I mean, you could take them at plus 134. $1 gets you $1.34. You know what I'm saying? Do you? Um, 219 is the over under. This game is definitely going over 219. It is definitely going over 219. And I don't think that Oklahoma City loses this game. So the 3 point, they certainly don't lose this game by 1, 2, or 3. You know what I mean? When they win it. So the 3 points is fool's gold. Take the 3. I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm saying take the 3, or give up the 3, and you know what I mean. Like take the over 219 if you're a gambler. I'm just saying you don't have to do it, but I'm just saying if I was betting, that's what I would do. So, you know, this game should be a very good game. I'm expecting it to be a decent game at least through the first 3 quarters, maybe 2.5 quarters. And I just think that Oklahoma City is definitely the better team. They're deeper. You know what I mean? These kids they're both young teams, but Oklahoma City being the younger team, I don't know that Minnesota is going to be able to stop them from playing at their pace. The defense that Minnesota played last game, it was cute and it's okay. You know what I'm saying? But again, get this playoffs is about chess moves. You know what I mean? That's the purpose of the series. So I think that Oklahoma City will, number one, make the proper adjustments to be ready for what Minnesota's going to look to throw at them. Kind of hard for Minnesota to anticipate the adjustments offensively that Oklahoma City is going to have to make after last game where Minnesota's defense disrupted what they typically did. So you see, can't anticipate what you don't really know is coming. So you're gonna have to make the end game adjustments. So this is the game for Minnesota to make the end game adjustments to Oklahoma City, having made off court adjustments, had a day or so to practice and say, all right, we're going to do this different. We're going to do that different. So yeah, I expect for that reason Oklahoma City to take this game. I could be wrong. We'll find out in the next episode for certain, because that has been the basis of this one. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like the video if you haven't done so already. As I said, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already as well. I will catch you guys in the next episode. Bring on game 4 tonight in Minnesota. Absolutely can't wait. Catch you guys in the next episode. Until then, take care of yourselves. Blessings.